Hello everyone and welcome back to the UConn Huskies Dynasty. In the last episode, UConn beat Michigan State in the Alamo Bowl 27-14 to get their second bowl victory in the series. We're obviously in bowl week 1 of 4 right now. There's no way to see what other bowl games have happened yet. So let's go ahead and advance the week and take a look and see how other teams did in terms of their bowl games. Matt Hoffman wins Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week for the Alamo Bowl versus Michigan State. So if we look at bowl week 1, we can see the scores here. Georgia Tech beating Louisiana, Marshall kind of dominating Akron, Georgia State beating Tulsa. That's a little bit of an upset there. Boise State getting killed by West Virginia. Miami only barely beating East Carolina. Baylor beats Duke. Colorado over Temple. Oregon over Boston College. Auburn just barely edges out BYU. Notre Dame 26-20 over NC State. ULM beats Middle Tennessee State pretty easily. Georgia kind of dominates Arizona. Could have seen that one coming. San Jose State beats UTEP. North Carolina beats Oklahoma in the college football playoff. Central Michigan beats Southern Miss. Miami, Ohio dominates Old Dominion. I mean, kills Old Dominion. Northwestern barely edging out New Mexico. New Mexico must have had an extra game on this season. They finished 6-8. And in fact, the same thing goes for Northwestern. Both of them played an additional game. And I don't remember having either of them on my calendar, so I don't know what happened there. Nevada beats UNLV. South Carolina beats Oklahoma State. Clemson dominates Charlotte. Utah barely beats USC. UMass beats Western Kentucky. So the two former rivals, each with a victory in their bowl games. Virginia barely beats New Mexico State, and Wisconsin beats Buffalo. Nebraska over Air Force. Texas A&M over Illinois. Minnesota kills Sam Houston. Iowa over Cincinnati. Louisville over Kansas. Penn State over LSU, Missouri 45-7 over Stanford, Iowa State 37-34 over Virginia Tech, Ohio 31-26 over Texas Tech, Purdue beats Florida State, that's a fun one, Michigan loses to Texas, and TCU beats Florida. So now if we look at the college football playoff bracket, it's UAB versus South Carolina, North Carolina versus Tennessee, Georgia versus Kansas State, and Clemson versus Ohio State. But real quick, let's recap our season. The year started off, if we take a look at the team schedule, with 3 straight losses, a really close one against West Virginia, a not super close one against Utah, and then a game we definitely should have won against Arizona. In that Arizona game, I decided to just rush the ball in for a touchdown late instead of killing more clock and settling for a field goal. Probably would have won that game had I just done that. The way I was looking at it is that this was the game where Zach Costanza was missing every field goal under the sun. So in my mind, the coach is like, well, I don't trust the kicker to make it here. Let's just go for the touchdown and let our defense get the stop. And the defense just didn't get the stop, went to overtime, lost by a field goal. And then we went on an absolute tear. We did not lose again. 24-7, 31-13, 24-13, close one against Arizona State, dominated Navy, beat Purdue pretty easily, really close game against JMU that probably shouldn't have been, barely beat Baylor in a very close defensive battle, and then killed Liberty, and then ultimately beat Michigan State. So we won 10 straight games to end the season. If we take any of these 3 games, we're in the college football playoff. But I really think that that's an excellent year for, you know, our first year in the Big 12. I'm very happy with that. Here are the stats on the season. Nick Evers, 2,334 yards, 17 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, 69% completion percentage. Dorian Tobin played a little bit here and there, mostly in 1 game, but was pretty quality in that game. And McDonald, of course, just the 1 pass that he completed on the season. Cam Edwards finishes with 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns on 220 carries. Darrell Robinson, nearly 700 yards and 10 touchdowns. He was much more the goal line back later in the season. Mel Brown only played that 1 game, but was disgusting in that 1 game. And then Isaiah Carlson played a lot in the beginning of the season, but then just kind of fell off at the end of the year. Receiving, Shamar Porter leads the way. We didn't have a single 1,000-yard receiver this season. We were a run-first offense all year. As soon as Cam Edwards figured out how to run the football, it was run, 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 and then pass when we need to. So Shamar Porter didn't get as many touches as I would have liked, as many yards as I would have liked, but still had a pretty solid season, just under 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. Angler, 54 receptions, 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then after that, it's like you fall off a cliff. Like Harper's the next closest, and then Hicks falls off by a mile, but he was kind of a big time red zone threat despite the low amount of catches. I mean, 4 touchdowns on only 14 receptions is pretty crazy. And then Brendan Wooten, I liked a lot as just a backup tight end. Got like 1 or 2 catches a game, but they were always really solid. As for blocking, who allowed the most sacks? It was Blake Franks. And you know what? As much as I trash on Jaden Bass, he did only allow 3 on the season. Morosky, though, only allowing 1. Morosky easily our best lineman, that is for certain. Defensively, Joey Terrell at 113 total tackles. We nearly had 2 guys at 100 tackles plus. Lovelace only 4 short. Terrell also had 16 TFLs, but the leader in TFLs is Curvins Chute with 22. And then we had Hoffman, Terrell, McNulty, Stern, and Chadwick all in double digits. In terms of sacks, Curvins Chute ends up taking the lead off of McNulty and Hoffman for total sacks on the season. Do you remember the beginning of the year when we could not buy a sack? Well, we ended up with a ton of sacks on the season. I mean, 3 guys hitting 8+ is a big deal. After the 3rd week, when we still just could not get to the quarterback, that's sort of when I started playing McNulty in the game more, and that just made a huge difference. I don't know why, but in general, the defensive line started playing much better. I actually didn't make any slider adjustments this season. So what you've seen develop has just been like player development, me changing up the play style and changing like player rotation. And I think I'll try to do that for future seasons. We'll just kind of stick with one slider set throughout. That way we kind of know what works and what doesn't, and we're not playing with the game being weird and more with like the players. Logan Stern had a solid season as well. He's only a junior, so he'll take over as like the top D tackle edge rusher type of guy next season with Hoffman and Chute leaving. Leader in interceptions, Jarvarius Sims with 4. Chadwick had 3, Stokes had 3, and Santos with the 1. Santos had so many chances to have interceptions, and I think the reason you didn't see a lot of these B interceptions is because I do have the interception slider quite low, because otherwise if it hits them in the hand at all, it's an interception, and I just don't think that's super true to real life. I do probably need to turn it up a little bit though, because it's just way too frequent that we're dropping picks. And then as for kicking, ended up with a 71% field goal percentage for Costanza. It was really only like 3 weeks where I was just absolutely horrible. I think from like week 6-ish on, I didn't miss a field goal. So we didn't have to call on him a lot either, though. We were very efficient at getting into the end zone. And for those of you that like to know punting stats, Roger DeLuca, the true freshman punter, is horrible, by the way. He cannot kick very far at all. His leg is quite weak, but he did have 1,000 yards punting. Our top kick returner was George Kiki, by the way. I actually thought he was pretty decent, especially in the early part of the year. He was also the punt returner. 9.8 average. It is what it is. In terms of the Big 12, we were 7th in terms of total offense. And look at our passing offense. I bet we're first in rushing offense. Yes, we are by a lot. So yeah, we were a rush first type of team. Passing offense, we were the worst in the Big 12, but we end up as a top 7 team in the Big 12 in terms of total offense. We did also lead in rushing touchdowns and in first downs by a lot. Defensively, we were actually one of the top defenses in the Big 12 as well, number 4 to be precise. We ended up kind of middle of the pack of the Big 12 in terms of sacks, which is surprising considering I think we had like 4 exiting week 5 or something. So to get all the way up to 31 is pretty cool. And we're one of the bottom teams in terms of turnovers generally. Like we didn't force a ton of fumbles, didn't force a lot of interceptions. We only had 3 fumbles forced on the season. Oh, this is fumble recoveries, actually, my mistake. We had the best third down percentage in the Big 12. Not by a lot, but we had the best one. Again, not super surprising to me, actually. We ended up in third and short situations all the time, and we would just get a 1-yard carry for Cam Edwards. We also had a sort of middle to maybe top end fourth down percentage. We were exactly 50%. We only attempted 2 fourth downs on the entire season. We were very efficient in the red zone, 54% red zone percentage. I believe that is touchdowns. We ended up scoring a touchdown on 54% of red zone drives. And then our defensive red zone percentage was 27%. So when our defense was in the red zone, they made a stand most of the time. It was very much bend but don't break defense. We allowed a lot of field goals, but we did not allow a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. For penalties, we had the lowest number. I mean, unless you guys want to see a lot more penalties in the games, this is just always going to be the case. But let me know if you do want to see more penalties. I'll turn those sliders up. I think it's fine how it is, where we see some every game but not a lot. For turnover differential, we only had a +5, which is very middle of the Big 12. We only had 9 giveaways on the whole season, which is top 3 in the Big 12. And if you're curious, nobody broke a single season UConn record, but Nick Evers did break the record for passing touchdowns as a UConn quarterback. In year 1, he was a sophomore. He dropped 40 that season, and then it's been less and less every year as we focused more on the run, but still broke the record by 1 touchdown. Previously 84, held by Dan Orlovsky, now 85, held by Nick Evers. Here are the award winners. Gunnar Stockton, the quarterback of Georgia, won Player of the Year. No UConn Huskies here. Head coach of the year is Francis Eaton for UNC. Best quarterback, Gunnar Stockton of Georgia. Best defensive player is Tion Robinson from Middle Tennessee State. Curvin Chute did finish 5th. Best defensive back is Jermaine Matthews. Cam Chadwick did finish 6th. Best running back is Elijah Davis. I want to see if Cam Edwards even made the list. He did not. So definitely didn't have the year that Victor Rosa had a season ago. Best receiver is Iverson Hooks of UAB. UAB ended up being a really good football team this year. The Lombardi Award presented to the best defensive lineman or the defensive lineman of the year is Tion Robinson. Unitas Award goes to Gunnar Stockton. The best defensive end is Tion Robinson. Matt Hoffman is 5th. Best interior lineman is Trovon Baugh from South Carolina. Best tight end, Marcus Angler finishes 7th as a true freshman. This guy's going to be such a beast as he continues to improve. Royals Award goes to Greg Vierling of North Carolina. Best linebacker is Tanner Ferris of Ohio State. Best center, Brady Small for Army. The Lou Groza Award goes to the kicker of the year. So shocking to see that Zach Costanzo isn't here. Best punter was Jackson Ross, and the best returner was Nate Johnson. And now, did we have any All-Americans? We did. All-American first team for true freshman Marcus Angler. That is crazy. Very deserved. The dude was an incredible tight end for us all year, especially late. He's going to be, like I say, so good. And as a true freshman, he makes All-American first team. And for second team, did we have any Huskies? No, doesn't look like it, unfortunately. And for the All-American freshmen, of course, you've got Angler here, and Gerard Byler actually made it. That's really surprising to me. I'm surprised Joey Terrell isn't here. Had an incredible year as a freshman. As for the all Big 12 first team, Cam Edwards is the halfback one, Angler is the tight end one, and that's it for the first team for UConn. The second team, nobody is on the list for the second team. So just Cam Edwards and Marcus Angler. But for the freshman team, it's Angler and Byler and Daniel Hutchison. He did play quite a bit actually, but I'm surprised that he made the Big 12 freshman team. I guess there wasn't really any strong safety maybe that could have taken it from him. And lastly, we'll just look at the standings of each conference really quick. We'll sort by general win-loss. North Carolina takes the ACC. The American is UAB. Big 12 is Kansas State and Arizona at the top. The Big 10 is Ohio State, finishing 12-1 on the season. UCLA was 2-10. Conference USA is Middle Tennessee State. This conference is so horrible. Independence Notre Dame finishes 9-3. In the MAC, it's Akron and UMass at the top of the board. In the Mountain West, it's San Jose State finishing 8-6. Pac-12 is Boise State at 11-3. And then the SEC was led by Tennessee and Georgia, each finishing 12-1. Arkansas 2-10. And finally, in the Sun Belt, it's Louisiana 12-2. Troy finishes 4-8. Shout out Cameron. And now I think we can start advancing the weeks and seeing who wins their playoff matchups. Don Lambo, the elusive back from New Jersey, has committed to the University of Connecticut. We are up to third on Sua Taufa. We had to catch up to Rutgers and Virginia, but we did so pretty easily. Otherwise, we're doing pretty good. UAB beats South Carolina 38-37, and their Cinderella run continues. Tennessee dominates UNC, Georgia beating K-State 21-11, and Ohio State crushing Clemson 52-17. I would love to see UAB in the national championship. That'd be really fun. And oh my God, they did it. They beat Tennessee 31-21, and it's UAB versus Ohio State in the national championship. And UAB, out of the American, win the national championship. If they do, they're definitely getting promoted out of the American. I tell you what, we advance. Can UAB get the victory and become the champions? They do. UAB out of the American just won the national championship over Ohio State. 42-26 as well. It wasn't even that close. UAB, what in the world? Let's take a look at their roster. Are they insane, or do they just have a crazy run? Trace Campbell is an 84 quarterback. Lee Beebe Jr. is a 93 overall halfback. Wide receivers, wow, they do have a really good offense, actually. See, I don't think these overalls are accurate. This is not a 79 overall offense. This is an offense that is better than our offense, and it's not close. It does actually look like maybe their defense isn't as good as the offense, but I mean, when your offense is playing like that, man, wow. wow, really good team at UAB. Obviously good enough to win the national title. That is insane. In future seasons, do you guys want me to try to watch these games? If I make myself the owner, or the coach rather, of UAB, for example, we'd be able to step in and watch this game from like a simulated perspective. Let me know if that's something you want to see for national championship games that don't involve us in the future. But there you have it, UAB. Let's take a look at the bracket one more time. Coming out of the American and winning the national championship. That's what the expanded playoff is for, I guess. We are officially to the offseason and we can see players leaving. I worry that Cole Welliver might try to leave, but he's not actually. Cole Welliver decides to stay and not transfer. But we do lose a number of really great players to graduation, including Nick Evers, one of the UConn greats at quarterback. Eilish Hicks, I know he didn't play a ton, but he was pretty good. Jarvarius Sims had a great year for us. Cam Edwards, of course, was great. Mel Brown didn't really play. Hoffman was awesome. Passmore didn't play a lot. Chute was great. Voorhees didn't play a ton. Scruggs was pretty good. Heininger didn't play. He was just a backup. Stokes, I loved. Stokes was great. Spillman was pretty decent. And Wooten, of course, I liked a lot. So a lot of decent players graduating. Sad to see them go, but glad that they were here. And that brings us to the transfer portal and to the draft results. Did Nick Evers get drafted? He did. He's a round 7 quarterback. Nick Evers, welcome to the NFL, buddy. We've now had 2 players drafted, Nick Evers and Victor Rosa. It is time for the transfer portal. So we did get Eric Sauer to commit. We did get Parker Sims to commit. And we did get Evan Bingham to commit. I'm probably not going to go super hard in the transfer portal unless, oh my God, I see a 4-star quarterback that is interested. Miles O'Neal and AJ Suris. A sophomore leaving A&M and another sophomore leaving Rutgers, and this one is Marco Lainez out of Iowa. He is a junior. If only I had a crystal ball to see how good our quarterback situation is going to be next season. It's so tempting to go after a guy like Miles O'Neal. Rutgers and Ohio State is pursuing him. He's also a field general type. I think I'm good. I think I'm going to stick it out with the guys that I have. We do have some 3-stars that are interested, including Edward McClinton. Jack Hines, a tackle. He would be a big pickup. We need help offensive line so bad. I'm definitely going to go all in on Jack Hines. And I'm also going to go after another tackle in Tyler Fulton. And then the only other guy I think I'm going to go after is Travion White, who is a junior corner, just because I do think we need a little bit more corner depth after losing Sims. Let me know if you think I should have gone after one of those quarterbacks. I just like our quarterback situation. We have like 4 different guys who might be able to be the starter next season to replace Nick Evers. I don't think we need to bring another guy into that mix. All right, so I went through the board and put points as I wanted to put them out and scheduled visits as I wanted to as well. So Jack Hines, we're maxing out on. Taj Coxey. Really the most important ones are anyone we're battling for. So that's Sua Taufa, 65 points for him and a visit scheduled for week 1. David Maddox, we're in a little bit of a battle with UMass for, so we're maxing his points out. And basically I scheduled a visit for anyone I could. David Sun is a big battle as well. It's very close between us and Buffalo. It could go either way, honestly. Other than that, we're kind of chilling on everyone else. Gotta wait on what Travion Wright is receiving and on guys like Jack Hines and Tyler Fulton. But I'm pretty happy with that layout thus far. So let's go ahead and advance to the next week. David Sun has committed, so we did steal him from Buffalo. The only commit thus far. We're second for Fulton, so we might need to go a little bit harder for him. Boston College in the mix for Jack Hines, but we should be able to schedule the visit now. We'll schedule that for as soon as possible. Taj Coxey's really close. Oh, wow. Minnesota wants Tyler Fulton pretty bad. His hard sell at this point could be almost anything. So I'm just going to max out points with the send the house and wait until we can schedule the visit. I don't know if we're going to be able to catch up with Minnesota though. We've taken the lead on Sua and we're well in the lead on David Maddox. Ellefson, okay, Northwestern is in the mix on Ellefson now, so we're going to definitely add more points to him. And we'll go ahead and schedule his visit for week number 2 as well. David Sun, of course, committed. We'll add him to the list of commits. Still no battle on Alfonso. I'm just going to max out his points anyway. I think we have the points to do that. Just get him in sooner rather than later. NIU wants Travion White, so we're going to max out his points as well. And then we're about to get the commit from Van Horn, and we're relatively close on J. Joe. I've decided because I have all these additional points, I am going to add Edward McClinton to the board. He is a sophomore wide receiver with good size. So let's go ahead and attempt to recruit him. He is about to lock in his top 5 or top 8 potentially. So we need to get in as much as possible. This should skyrocket us to top 3 easily, probably top 2. There's all the points spent. Basically just have everyone maxed out at this point. Most people scheduled for a visit. I'm feeling pretty good. We'll go ahead and advance to recruiting week number 3. Taj Coxey, the outside linebacker, commits. David Maddox, the safety, commits. Cole Ellefson, the outside linebacker, commits. Reed Rechsteiner, another outside linebacker, commits. Charles Van Horn, a tight end from Connecticut, commits. A lot of commitments just then. The main issue now is that we're almost bringing in too many players, and we are going to have to cut some people next season, but that's not the worst problem to have. We have overtaken Minnesota, and we can schedule a visit for Tyler Fulton for week 3, and we've overtaken Boston College on Edward McClinton as well, and we've scheduled a visit for him. Everyone has a visit scheduled except Travion White. We don't necessarily need to, but we have the points, so I'm going to do it. And at this point, there's not much of a reason to go after anyone else. Like, we have a ton of commits already. I don't need to add more players to make it more of a headache to cut the roster down to size. So we're gonna leave it as it is for now and just leave the 300 plus points on the table and advance to week number 4. Jack Hines commits a right tackle. That's good. We need offensive line help. He's the only commit that week. And now it's again just a waiting game. I know I have 500 points. It looks like we're gonna get Fulton. Yeah, we're looking pretty good on pretty much all of these guys. And nothing else to do right now. They're all maxed out on points. So we just wait and see. So we will advance past the final week of recruiting and see who we land. Edward McClinton has committed to UConn. Tyler Fulton has committed. Sua Taufa is committed. Alfonso Ruiz, Travion Wright, Jay Joe. I think that was everyone. So here is officially National Signing Day. We did get literally everyone on our board. So that's 30 commits in total, which is maybe not great considering it means we are going to have to make some roster adjustments, but it is what it is. And in terms of where we landed nationally, well, Alabama ended up with the best recruiting class in general. We ended up 35th, so top 40 in terms of recruiting classes. And in the Big 12, we were 6th. I think it's been a very, very good recruiting class for us. And with National Signing Day, of course, we get to see officially the development trait of all of these players. So Edward McClinton has normal development. You've got normal for Tyler Fulton, impact for Sua Taufa. Alfonso Ruiz has normal, Travion Wright normal, impact for the tight end Jay Joe, impact for David Maddox, impact for Cole Ellefson, normal for Reed Rechsteiner, impact for Charles Van Horn, normal for Taj Coxey and David Sun, normal for Evan Bingham, normal for Don Lambo, normal for Gregory Dunbar, star for the 4-star Adonis Keough. Really happy to see that. He's going to be such an integral part of this defensive line for years to come. Normal for Dan Sanders, a little disappointing, not the end of the world. Impact for Calvin Plummer. Elite for Dennis Cullen. Let's go. We've almost got too many linebackers at this point, but another elite development guy, you won't see me complain. Siaki Toole has impact. Dexter Ort has impact. Neil Powell has normal. Kevin Madu impact. Tyvik normal. Nolan Lindsay normal. Maka Gayton impact. Russ McLeod normal. Eric Sauer impact. Parker Sims impact. And Jack Hines impact. Really, really good recruiting class. Very happy with that. And now it's time to decide on position changes. The unfortunate thing about this is that I wish you could do it after seeing the upgrades that players get. Because if Dorian Tobin is not set to be the starting quarterback, I'd like to probably move him to receiver, I'm guessing is where he's best. Yeah, and he would be a 75 overall receiver as it is right now. He's actually a 79 overall halfback as well. That's obviously before his upgrades. I do sort of think that he is going to be the starter. Honestly, any of these 5 guys could be the starter. Probably not Plummer though. He's coming in as a 73 and won't improve through the offseason upgrades. But let's assign our athletes. Gregory Dunbar, he's a 62 overall. He's actually best as an edge rusher or an outside linebacker. He does have decent block shedding and finesse moves. He's definitely a running back to me though. So we will assign him as such, and he's definitely getting redshirted this season as only a 62 overall, but might have a bright future. I guess we'll find find out. And then there's Neil Powell, who is a 75 overall quarterback out the gate. He does only have normal development. He might be pretty close to his ceiling. He is a 72 overall halfback as well. Let's take a look at some of his halfback attributes. He does have 83 carrying. He only has 84 speed though. His juke move's pretty good. Being that Neil Powell is not particularly fast, I don't love the idea of him playing really anywhere else other than quarterback, to be honest with you. Apparently he's a decent halfback. I don't think so. I'm gonna make him a quarterback. And then the other athlete is Tevin Madu, who is a wide receiver, but apparently he's a pretty good slot corner or a good safety. Let's go see those coverage ratings. 65 tackle is about on par with a corner. His play recognition's a 67. Wow, he actually is pretty good in coverage, but his press coverage is horrible. 78 pursuit, 73 man, 69 zone. I think Tevin Madu is just a receiver. I think that's where he fits in the best. And we aren't exactly super deep at receiver as it is, so I'd like to see him improve as a receiver. Although he does seem like he'd be a pretty decent safety. I am curious if Chester Roach would be good at anything else, because he has not developed very quickly as a quarterback. But no, it does not appear so. He'd be a 65 halfback. That's not great. At this point, I think this is just the roster. Powell and Plummer probably both getting redshirted, and it'll be a battle for the top spot in the quarterback room between Tobin, McDonald, Welliver, and Roach. Something I am considering here, Dennis Colin is a pass coverage middle linebacker. He has 84 tackling, which is not nearly as good as Terrell or Lovelace, but he's pretty good in zone coverage, not great in man. Dennis Colin might be a decent safety. He is going to get passed by a number of players when we actually get to the off-season training, but I would consider moving him to safety potentially. As for position changes, I think that's it. Something to keep an eye on. Before we see the upgrades, we are an 81 overall roster according to the game. I've learned to kind of not trust these overalls, but that is what it says. Now, when we advance, let's see what we jump up to. It is officially year number 4. We are an 84 overall. 84, 85, 84. So our best player is Raheem Lovelace at a 90. Robinson's up to an 88. That's about what he was playing at last season. Porter for his senior year at an 86. Terrell's up to an 86. Byler is an 86. Chadwick's an 85. Let's go position by position. Dorian Tobin is currently our best player. How does Chester Roach continue to not see any improvement despite his star development trait? I do not understand. If we look at the actual arm of each of the two players, Welliver's arm is a little bit stronger, and he's more accurate medium and deep, but much less accurate short. Tobin, really good short throw guy, not quite as strong of an arm, and a little bit less accurate deeper down the field. They're the same at throwing on the run. Welliver is better under pressure and has better break sack, but Tobin has 90 play action and 85 carrying to Welliver's 59, so he would surely be a huge fumble risk. I think that Tucker McDonald is a guy I am probably going to allow to transfer out in his senior season. Could do the same with Welliver, honestly. It's close. You guys let me know what you think. Which of these two guys would you rather start? It's either Dorian Tobin with the 98 speed. We change up the offense to maybe be more option focused so that he can use his legs a little bit more. And he's got a good arm, man. It's not like the accuracies are bad. Or is it Cole Welliver, strong arm pocket passer type of guy, much more like Nick Evers and what we're used to? Let me know what you guys think. I'm leaning Tobin currently, but let me know. Halfback 1 is Darrell Robinson, and it is just Darrell Robinson. Isaiah Carlson did not see a very significant upgrade, but he is technically the halfback 2. Really disappointing to see that Max Cadet saw basically no improvement as an impact player. He was who I was thinking was going to be the next sort of Cam Edwards to Darrell Robinson, where they're sort of battling for that number 1 spot. But no, it looks like Cadet probably needs another year of development. He might see the field a little bit, but it's mostly going to be Darrell Robinson with maybe a little bit of Isaiah Carlson. Wide receiver 1 is Shamar Porter at an 86. Dalton Skmizniak jumped all the way to an 82 as a red shirt freshman. He does have impact development, and he is at his ceiling right now. This is as good as it gets for Dalton. Terry Overhauser jumps to a 79 overall and does have 94 speed, one of the fastest players on the team. Impact development, and he is close to his ceiling currently. Then you've got Domino Harper and Edward McClinton. We did bring in McClinton as a transfer. It's sort of looking like he might not play very much. We might let a guy like Brian Domino transfer out. I prefer Jackson Harper because of the size, and he has the same speed and better acceleration. So if one of the two is going to play, it's going to be Harper. So I'll probably let Domino transfer. Marcus Angler stays about the same, 74 overall. Dan Sanders comes in at a 72. Angler does only have normal development. I forgot about that. I don't know why I thought he had better development. Oh, he's at his ceiling. I did not realize that Marcus Angler was already at his cap. That is really disappointing, actually. He's still an excellent player, but yeah, maybe not going to turn into the stud I thought he was going to, if he's not already that. Dan Sanders might actually overtake him in that regard, the true freshman. Sanders will probably play this year. Trey Keenan is a junior now and has like hardly developed at all. And he was a 3-star. Wow, he's at his cap as well. We need to figure out how to upgrade these caps a bit. Probably gonna let Gage Schulters walk. He's still only a 59 overall. He was a 1-star commit from season 1. And yet he's at his cap already as well. At a 59, by the way, the kid's at his cap. Starting left tackle currently is set to be Ted Booth at a 78. Blake Franks is up to an 81. Got an 81 for Jake Kiernan, but is he still absolutely terrible at pass blocking? No, but he is terrible at run block power. I remember that being a problem with him. Right guard Ben Morosky is up to an 85, and then underneath him actually Ty Polk is an 82, and underneath him is Russ Ehlers at an 80. We're looking pretty good at right guard. We can move those guys around quite a bit, make a good offensive line. Torian Johnson, the right tackle, is up to an 83. He'll probably play left tackle this season, but his pass block finesse is horrible. Otherwise, he's pretty solid. Jaden Bass is actually a lot more well-rounded than Torian Johnson, so maybe it should be him at left tackle. I'm not sure, but we have a bunch of 80 plus overall guys that can move around, and we can find a pretty good offensive line. Left end is 83 overall Cleto Chull, who did pass Johnny McNulty, who I will also assume is at his cap. Oh no, he's actually pretty far from his cap. Adonis Keogh comes in at a 76. He has star development. His block shedding is already an 84, but his power and finesse moves are not very good. At right end, it's Logan Stern, who is an 83. Defensive tackle Calvin Whitaker becomes the main guy in the middle. He's up to an 82. And then there's Alan Swan up to a 78, and Corin Daly is a 76. Outside linebacker Gerard Byler and Addison Biggs, 86 and 82. In the middle, it's Raheem Lovelace and Joey Terrell. And then the other outside linebacker, D'Angelo Townsend, is the 77. So it'll be Biggs and it'll be Byler who play on the outside. Unfortunately, Benji Butt has not really amounted to much thus far. He does have impact development, and he's pretty far from his ceiling, so just haven't seen the upgrades from him. George Kiki, once again, did not get a very big upgrade. He's pretty far from his ratings maximum, so it's interesting that he continues to not receive great upgrades, but meanwhile AJ Hepburn does. Kiki is up to a 72 in man coverage though, which I think is definitely playable. Santos is up to a 93 and an 80. He is definitely CB1. I think it's going to be Santos and Kiki as the 1 and 2, and then once again Chadwick in the slot, and then Hepburn can maybe be taking over the slot next season as a junior, since this is Chadwick's senior season. Travion White comes in as a senior and he's a 70. Maybe should have thought that through a little bit more. In exciting news for the Butts though, Robert Butts is set to be the starting free safety. He's up to an 80 overall. Simonson is up to a 75, and Nick Giuliano a 75 as well. And the starting strong safety is projected to be Daniel Hutchison at a 78. Zach Costanzo, his kick power is up to an 89. His accuracy appears to have gone up to a 79. So that's really good for Zach Costanzo. Need the accuracy more than we need the power at this point. His kick power is actually maxed out, and he's close to maxed on the accuracy, but he should be a decent kicker for the remainder of his time with UConn. And we have Dylan Missy underneath him. And honestly, I don't know why this guy's on the team. He's awful. And now we get to encourage some transfers, and we have to encourage quite a lot of them, 16 in total. I mentioned Tucker McDonald is not going to start, so we're going to let him transfer, see if he can play somewhere else in his senior season. I'm not going to transfer out Chester Roach. He has star dev. He should be getting better. Hopefully in his junior and senior seasons, he actually sees that come to fruition. And I mentioned 4 receivers. I'm going to let Brian Domino go. Just doesn't need to be on the team. Gage Schulters is definitely getting kicked out. and maybe even Cornell Fink as well. On my first pass, typically what I'm looking for is seniors that I just don't think are going to see any playing time at all, because those are always the easiest guys to allow to transfer. Like, they're not going to play, they're a senior, why are they here? Currently, I'm not really finding anyone like that. Can you believe it's already Raheem Lovelace's junior season? I am going to kick out Dylan Missy. We're just going to easily be able to get a better kicker, and he's at his ceiling right now. Goodbye, Dylan. I'm considering letting Isaiah Carlson transfer, to be honest. He does have the best carrying on the team. He is a pretty solid power back, but honestly, like, Max Cadet could be the power back, and Carlson's just not going to see the field a lot with us. He is a senior. Yeah, you know what? I'm looking at their stats and comparing. Max Cadet is basically the same player as Carlson. He just doesn't have the awareness. I'm gonna let Carlson go. I think I'm gonna let Cadet be the halfback 2 this season. Well, that was harder than I expected it to be, but I got through it. The only big name I really ended up letting transfer was Jaden Bass. There's so many offensive linemen that have passed him in skill, and I was honestly sick of him. So we've moved on, and now it's on to custom conferences. As a number of you probably know at this point, there's kind of a new Pac-12 emerging in real life. So Wyoming was not included in this, at least to this point. Nevada was not included in this. Fresno State was. Air Force was not. And Utah State was not. And also neither was UNLV, actually. So this is what the Pac-6 looks like at current. This, I believe, has basically been confirmed at this point. And there's rumors of at least 2 other teams joining. And I just moved them out temporarily to just show that they weren't originally meant to be there. But it's Utah State is rumored to be leaving, and so is UNLV to go to the Pac-12. And then if they want to scoop up 2 other schools to make a Pac-10, they could as well. Although in real life, it's like 10 million per school that they take out of the Mountain West. As for the AAC, obviously UAB needs to be out of the American. They just won the national championship. They can't be in the American. I think it would actually be pretty fun if they joined the Big 12. I think that UAB, the national champions, absolutely would be joining a new bigger conference, and the Big 12 I think makes some sense. So here's ultimately what I have decided on. In the American, they lost UAB, but we've added App State from the Sun Belt. The American is on the verge of being a power conference. UAB obviously just won a natty from in there. Charlotte was incredible last year. So I think a team out of the Sun Belt would want to join the American, and I think App State made a lot of sense as they're a bit more northeast. The ACC stayed entirely the same, except for that we removed 1 team, and I'll show you that in just a second. The Big 10 is entirely the same, and the Big 12 has added a few new faces. Syracuse has left the ACC a year after its implosion to join the Big 12. And then UAB, of course, has left the American to also join the Big 12. By the way, if you didn't know, 20 is the maximum amount of teams you can have in a conference, so we are currently maxed out in the Big 12. Unfortunately, with the way we're doing this, one of the conferences has to just be small, and that conference, in this case, is going to be Conference USA. I don't think anyone's going to be too disappointed by that. There's not really a team here that is a big-time contender. We could remove 2 more teams, but no matter what, 4 teams do have to stay. Notre Dame will remain independent for now. I still just don't think they have much of a reason to be joining a conference. Plus, we would need to probably make room for them in the ACC by removing another team. And I'm not sure if we want to do that. Maybe SMU in a couple seasons time wants to go back to the Pac-12. We'll come back to that in the future. The MAC stayed entirely the same. The Mountain West now consists of a bunch of Conference USA teams and some original Mountain West teams. I did some research. Turns out Air Force is committed to staying in the Mountain West, or so they've said so far. And we put Hawaii back in. We've added UTEP and Sam Houston, as well as New Mexico State. So much weaker Mountain West, but it is 8 teams, so basically a full conference. And the Pac-12 looks a lot different. I figured that even though Nevada is maybe not joining in real life, that here in our alternate universe, they've performed very well, and they probably have earned a spot in the Pac-12, plus it gives the Nevada-UNLV rivalry. And then we poached Texas State from the Sun Belt. I figured Texas State would take this opportunity to join a bigger brand conference and continue to grow as a team, as they surely will as a team from Texas. So the Pac-12 becomes a new Pac-10, and I like the look of it a lot. It actually looks like a really fun conference. SEC is entirely the same. Of course, we added Clemson and Florida State last season, and the Sun Belt is mostly the same, just 2 teams lighter. losing App State and Texas State. I think that this is pretty reasonable. Let me know what you guys think. Is the Big 12 getting a little bit too heavy with all these new teams? Do you think Syracuse over to the Big 12 is a stupid decision? Let me know. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna leave the episode here, and I want you guys to tell me in the comments what you want to see done with the conferences. Do you like these conferences? Do you dislike these conferences? And what would you change if you were the one in control of these conferences? Because honestly, this is a pretty decent time to do kind of a reset if we wanted to. So let me know what you think. And of course, let me know if you would want to move Cal, Stanford, UCLA, any of those teams back towards the West and into the Pac-12. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really pumped for season 4. It's going to be a new look offense behind Dorian Tobin or Cole Welliver. Only time will tell who gets the start. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that sub button for me. It does help me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next episode where we'll start year number 4.